You know, you got to wake up in the morning and just be glad that you woke up and appreciate every day. So that's what we've been doing. I've always wanted to be a cowboy since I was a kid. I used to wear these really tiny cowboy boots to preschool. Having that kind of accolade attached to my name has definitely helped.
And I love Rugged Revival.
This is a Rugged Revival podcast. We're your home of the UK's country, Americana and Roots music community. On today's show, I'm really pleased to welcome Ryan Coleman. Been keen to have him on for the last week to get this arranged. So welcome to the Rugged Revival, Ryan. How are you?
I'm great, man. Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it. Looking forward to my first podcast ever, actually, breaking the ice here. So glad to be doing it with you guys.
I know. Can you believe you trust me with your first podcast? So good for you. And we'll treat you kindly, mate.
Well, I appreciate that. And even if you don't, I get along with anybody. So we'll be just fine.
That's good to know. So what have you been up to this week so far?
So I grew up on a farm with my family outside of Philadelphia. So we're gearing up for hay season, growing hay, and we raise cattle. So we, the springtime is there's a lot of work to be done, gearing up for the summer months. But so a lot of that going on. Getting ready for some new music coming out. We're booking some more tour dates for later this year, and yeah, man, just living life. Just glad to be alive. You got to wake up in the morning and just be glad that you woke up and appreciate every day. So that's what we've been doing.
Awesome, buddy. Yeah, it sounds like you're leading a double life there with the farming and the music side of things. It's really interesting. We've got some good questions to kind of go through with that. But I'd like to dial it back a little bit at the beginning, just to kind of find out where you're from originally, where you grew up, and just a little bit about your childhood. So would you mind kind of going into that, please, Ryan?
Yeah, of course. I grew up in a small town called Chalfont, Pennsylvania, and we're about 45-ish minutes north of Philadelphia. I think it's like 4,000 or 5,000 people in the town. It's a suburban area, but my parents always wanted to live on a farm growing up, and they grew up kind of closer to the city. Moved out here, I think back in '94 or something like that, and that's kind of where we started the whole farm thing. We grew up on a gentleman farm, had horses, sheep, chickens, that kind of thing, and eventually grew into working for the farmer down the street, milking cows, and that he blossomed into my brother's own the business, and we do about 500 acres of hay and straw, about 30, 40 head of cattle. Still have the horses, still have the sheep, all that kind of stuff, but that really kind of shaped me into, the country music scene. I grew up in 4-H. I don't know if you guys are familiar with what 4-H is over in England.
No.
Okay. So it's really just a community club along those lines where we teach kids how to properly raise animals from, birth to market, and teach them how the process works, how to care for animals, where their food comes from, because that's a big thing. A lot of people think their food just comes from the supermarket these days, you know what I mean? And a lot of us know that's not the case. So, but long story short, that's kind of where my love for country music grew up, sitting in the tractor, baling hay, listening to George Strait on the radio, Tim McGraw, those good guys. So when I was a kid, my parents I have two older brothers. They made us each pick up an instrument, which I'm very grateful they did. And I was the only one who stuck with it. I picked up the guitar and stuck with it through college. And after college, I actually moved to Florida for another job, corporate job. And I was playing gigs like 5-6 nights a week down there. And actually eventually moved back to Pennsylvania. And that's kind of when I got caught up in the whole singing television competition world, and ended up going to LA to be on one of those shows. And that kind of kickstarted, the real grind of trying to become an artist in the country music scene. So
no, that's a cool story, man. And farming for a start must be incredibly difficult. Early mornings, late, ends, and what's a typical day look for you like for you at the minute?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, it depends what kind of farming you do. right? If you're a dairy farmer, you're getting up super early, milking cows 2 or 3 times a day. We used to do that. And then it became, I think it was the early 2000s, there just wasn't a ton of money in it because these mega farms, they're milking hundreds, if not thousands of cows. And for a little farm on the countryside of Philadelphia, I think we were milking 60, maybe 80 cows at the peak. It just didn't make sense. So we kind of moved to beef. So when you're raising beef cows, you don't really have to get up too early, which is nice. And they're grass fed, so we feed them a little bit of grain, but mostly hay. And there's not a ton of work that goes on there. But when we're farming during the season, we start cutting hay usually middle of May till about October, and those are usually some really late nights. We'll be down until midnight, 1, 2 a.m. So it's a lot of work. It's definitely a lifestyle, but honestly, I wouldn't trade it for anything. My brothers and I have gotten super, super close through it. My parents, all of our significant others have kind of been coerced into it, because it's not a 9 to 5, right? It's a 24/7 kind of thing. So
It's a whole lifestyle, isn't it? Absolutely, mate. And
it is.
yeah, it's interesting. Yeah. I think you're the first artist that we've had on from Pennsylvania, and you'll have to forgive my kind of knowledge of some of the states, but I did have to go on Google. I'm embarrassed to say to find out where Pennsylvania actually was. I recognise
That's all right.
Philadelphia, obviously, and but
Definitely.
I'm always interested to kind of learn about different states, different regions. I love America. I wish I travelled more as when I was younger. It's a bit more difficult now when you're married with kids, but yeah, it was great. I got to go out to Texas last year to see some friends, and hoping to go to Kentucky next year perhaps. But yeah, I mean, in terms of the just different states in general, like to know what's going on. So in Pennsylvania particularly, what's the culture like? What are the people like in general?
Well, if you know anything about Philadelphia, the sports culture it's pretty rugged. It's pretty rough. I'm an Eagles fan, Phillies fan, Flyers fan. Um, I don't necessarily partake a lot in the crazy antics of it all, but I do appreciate the sports. So when you're close to cities like Philadelphia or Pittsburgh, those are the two main cities in the state, but complete opposite ends. It's about 5.5, maybe 6 hours between the two. Um, you get a lot of that kind of great city culture and sports and really good food, really good people that'll give you the shirt off their back. Kind of where we are in the suburbia region of it, where you're starting to get into like Lancaster, which is everybody knows is the Amish country, has some of the richest soil in the world. And that's why farming is so big in Pennsylvania, because the soil is so great. And then northern PA, we have, sorry, everybody in Pennsylvania calls Pennsylvania PA. Uh,
Gotcha.
I don't know why we do that. We do that and we say water instead of water, but it's an accent thing, I guess. Um, but yeah, so northern Pennsylvania is a lot of mountains and wooded areas, a lot of timber going on up there. But we kind of get a really good mix of geography, and the Jersey Shore, which is the beach that most people around the Philadelphia area go to, is only about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. So it's kind of a great place to be. We're only 2 hours from New York City, and the drive to Boston or Florida isn't terrible. Um, but I know our sense of driving time is a little bit different than everybody else's in the world. So for us to do a
It
16-hour
is,
drive
yeah.
is nothing. You know what I mean?
I just found it incredible. Yeah, we only spent a week in Texas, and I don't think I've ever spent so much time in a car in my life. It was
Yeah.
it was crazy. You drive 5-6 hours over there, like you say, it's nothing to you guys. We run out of country if we drive that far. It's
Oh man.
that's why it's unfathomable. So you mentioned you're a big sports guy, and I was reading up on some things and getting some information about you, and something about an American amateur rodeo circuit came up. That you were involved in. Yeah, talk to me about that, mate, because that sounded super interesting.
Yeah, definitely. Growing up in the States, a lot of people put their kids into soccer or football, baseball, uh, tennis, whatever it may be. In the farming world, 4-H, that club I was telling you about where we raise livestock animals, is kind of its own little sport, raising livestock and showing it. There's a whole circuit for showing animals, whether it's, sheep or horses or pigs, cows, whatever it may be. They even show rabbits, which is kind of crazy. But and then rodeo is kind of like that main sport that a lot of the farming Western culture gets into. So I've always wanted to be a cowboy since I was a kid. I used to wear these really tiny cowboy boots to preschool, like the first grade that you go into. Um, and it just always fascinated me. So when I was old enough, I got into roping. So I was on a team roping team in the Pennsylvania High School Rodeo Association, and so we were roping cows. wasn't too dangerous. And then in college, I started riding bulls, and that was behind my parents' back. They didn't know I was doing it. So, needless to say, when my mom found out that I was riding bulls, uh, she put an end to that pretty quick, and for good reason. It was starting to beat me up pretty good. But I met some amazing people through it. I've also seen some pretty rough wrecks. But again, it's a lifestyle thing, and that's an adrenaline high you won't find anywhere else. I can promise you that. So if you ever want to get on a bull, you come to Pennsylvania, and we'll put you on one.
Yeah, I think I'll probably skip that, mate. I'm far too old to be getting on balls and yeah, stuff like that. But
Fair enough.
yeah, that sounds like fun, though. It definitely sounds like fun. I'd love to go to a show like that, and to have a good music scene at these shows as well. I spoke to a few people who were in the rodeo circuit, like Kenny Fiddler, and a lot of them kind of cut their chops at some of these rodeo events. So is that a thing as well?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, in the eastern part of the states, not so much. I know a lot of rodeos in Texas, Oklahoma, Wyoming. They have a thing called Bulls and Barrels, which is a big rodeo concert kind of thing. Even like the Houston Rodeo, which is huge out there in Texas. Um, but for the stuff I was doing, you might get a local band at the end of the rodeo once in a while. If you were doing like a national circuit or even a state circuit, um, again, they might bring in a smaller time artist for the entertainment piece of it. But I think we only got my band and I only got to play at maybe two or three of them over the last couple of years, which they are great because rodeo people do love country music. But it's a really cool environment and a really cool community to be in. Um, and I'm thinking about going back at some point. So we'll have to see what that shapes out to be, but we'll see.
Back to riding bulls, or is that still a no-no?
I will get on another one at some point. I just don't know when it's going to be. I should probably do it in my younger years here now that I'm a little bit more flexible.
Yeah, man, just don't tell your mum. But
Exactly.
that's awesome. It's I appreciate you sharing that, mate. I always like to kind of dial it back to kind of see where you come from, and I'm just interested. I'm particularly nosy as well. That's one of the traits of English people, that we just like to know where you come from and what you've been up to. So I appreciate you sharing that, dude. But in terms of you being on a podcast, we were talking off air earlier. This was quite a quick turnaround. One of the great things about doing podcasts like this is you just never know who you're going to run into or contact you. I had a message from your manager, Reed Perry, from the band Perry. Must admit, I apologise to Reed. I didn't know who he was, but I really liked his email. It was an honest way in which he reached out, wanted to talk about your new single that's coming out, which we'll go into. And to kind of put it on our playlist, which we've got on Spotify. So we've got a playlist called New Country Americana Roots Releases. It's a bit of a mouthful, but so as an independent platform, we try as much as possible to kind of put new releases, obviously from independent artists on there. And that's why Reed reached out and give me a bit about your background, your bio. And I was really interested. And the more I kind of dug into what you were doing, I thought I'd love to speak to you. So thanks to Reed, and thanks for you, Ryan, to come on. You guys seem to have a really good passion around, the independent scene. And I'm just keen to know what you guys are up to, what you're cooking, and how you and Reed got to kind of work together as well. Would you mind, sharing that, please, mate?
Yeah, of course. It's kind of an interesting situation that we found ourselves in. When I was in, let me back up a little bit here. When I was telling you about 4-H, I know I keep bringing that up, but it was such a big integral part of my life growing up. We get in that club when we're 6, 7, 8 years old, and we take it all the way to 18. So you meet a lot of friends, family, people you get really close with, especially in the farming, country world. I ended up growing up with who Reed's now wife, Ray. So that's kind of where the connection came from. And when I was out in LA filming a show that I was on, they live out there, and she had reached out to me and said, "Hey, you know, I ended up marrying Reed Perry from the band." He's one of the founding members of the band Perry, which is a very big country band in the States. And they're national. They've been on the road for years. Um, but I was kind of dumbfounded. I didn't know what to say. I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's incredible!" And she offered, if I wanted to hop on a Zoom with him and just kind of pick his brain about the industry, his experience. You always hear all these horror stories about what's going on, and if I can kind of save myself from that by networking and asking questions and kind of doing my due diligence to learn as much as I can, I'm gonna do it, right? So Reed was gracious enough to hop on a Zoom. We actually got along really, really well, and then we kept getting on Zooms, every month or so, and it just led to this awesome friendship where eventually he kind of knew what I was doing, and I think he was finding a new path in his life aside from the artist lifestyle. So he and I talked about management and ended up, you know, he built a management company and they took me on as their first artist, which I'm super grateful for. So I'm still not sure. I'm so grateful to him for all the work he does for me and with me and the friend that he is. And I'm not quite sure um, why he believes in me so much, but I am so grateful for it. And I believe in myself a lot, but he's the reason I've gotten, we've made some serious moves in the last couple of years. So my hat goes off to him.
That's awesome. It's a great backstory to that, and yeah, I just sense the amount of passion that you both have to do what you're doing, and it's great that you found each other. So have you kind of sat down and have you got a vision and a pathway over the next year or next few years? Is there any real plan around that?
Definitely. Yeah. Right now we're focusing on just writing really good music. I've been writing by myself for years and never really understood that artists didn't write their own songs. It wasn't that long ago where I found that out. That songwriting was a whole thing in LA and Nashville and all around the world. And that you could do that for a job. So I can't talk for a job, which is really, really cool. So he has got me into some rooms with some great songwriters. We're really focused on just writing really good, meaningful, relatable songs that we can put out this year. We're touring a little bit later this year, July, August, September. We have some shows around the country, but kind of the plan going forward is to really focus on the music, get that out, um, and then start touring off that music within the next year or two, and just hit the ground running, hit the road running, if you will, and just play for as many people as we can. Because for me, I've always loved music. The goal was always just to do it as a full-time job. It didn't matter how much money we were making. I just want people to, relate to the music. I make music for me because that's the way it should be as an artist. And I truly
Yeah.
believe in that. And Reed, he's so good about that vision of just staying true to who I am and my values and where we want to take the songs and the music. So that's kind of where we're headed. We got a lot of music coming out, and then we're going to hit the road and try to connect with as many people out there as we can and play some music.
Yeah, it's I'm keen to kind of see where your journey goes because it sounds really exciting, and I wish you all the best with that, man. It's I think you got the right people behind you by the sounds of it.
Thank you.
So in terms of anyone that's kind of discovering your music now, so I gave you all of your stuff a really good listen over the weekend, and I loved it straight away. Appealed to me because it's the kind of traditional country and in some parts, but also kind of some Appalachian grit, dare I say, in simple soul and songs like that. But rather than me kind of explain it badly on your behalf, do you want to kind of tell people, the type of music you make, what you enjoy making?
Yeah, definitely. It's and thanks for listening to it. I appreciate that. Um, the Appalachia grit is a really good term. I might actually steal that from you if you don't mind. um,
I'll trademark it.
there we go. There we go. We'll get you a percentage cut. But I've always loved kind of the old traditional country. A lot of people call it '90s country now, but George Strait, all the classics, Jamie Johnson, Tim McGraw, Alan Jackson, and growing up always loved that kind of stuff. That's a lot of the stuff that I sang, kind of playing these little shows and cover shows, um, and then recently I've gotten really into the Americana side, folk, side of things. So that's kind of where I am. I like to take everything that I listen to and kind of boil it down into my own melting pot and make my own version of it. Still kind of treading in the country realm, if that makes any sense. But it's hard to put like a name on it. But I would say kind of in that Americana, old school country place is where we're trying to go,
Yeah.
and it just feels good to me.
Yeah, it's hard to kind of pigeonhole yourself, and there's so many terms these days. I think I just get lost in it, to be quite honest. But yeah, I think the easiest thing for people to do is just go over to your Spotify page, give it a really good listen. There's some fantastic songs on there. So you've been releasing songs for professionally, so it's about 4 or 5 years now. Going from your Spotify, I always start at the very beginning and I work my way forward because I like to hear where the sound kind of develops as well, and kind of where you're heading. So yeah, do you want to talk about your early releases and the releases that you've had recently and what you've got coming up?
Yeah, to your point, I started releasing. I think the first single came out in 2020. I was living in Florida at the time, and we recorded that song. It's called "That's What I Do," um, in the garage of a friend of a friend of a friend in Palm Beach, Florida. Um, and it's funny just how the people you meet along the way, and then, like you said, how the sound develops based on the people that you work with. As you get better at songwriting, a better musician, it really does kind of blossom into a big flower. So that first song, "That's What I Do," that you probably heard as the first song on there. Um, I love that song. It was the first one we obviously released, but if I had to go back, I'd maybe mix it a little bit different and change some of the melodies in it. But I'm super proud of it, still, and where how it came together and where it came from. It's a really cool story. And then yeah, along the way, we're just for a while there. If you don't know in the music, I'm sure you do in the music industry, but it's not the cheapest thing to do things independently.
Mm.
By the time you hire a producer and you go in, whether you're playing on the session or yet you hire session players to play on the song or multiple songs, and then you got to market it, mix it, master it, the whole nine. It's not a cheap endeavor. So it was a couple years. I got a few songs out, and then I decided to go full in, and that's kind of where we are right now. We recently released a song late last year called "A Time or Two" that got it hit top 60 on the Music Row radio charts, which was huge for us as an independent artist. If you can get on radio, I mean that was really really cool. Um, and then we had another song earlier this year called "Western Queen," which is more of that kind of train beat Western style, which I really like playing that kind of stuff. And then this new one, "Four Door Ford," is coming out. So after "Four Door Ford," I think we'll have a couple more songs throughout this year, and then the goal is to release an EP at the end of this year, with a couple new songs on it for everybody.
That's awesome. I mean, it sounds incredible. Like I said, hearing the sound develop from those early songs to what you're doing now. It's interesting when we speak to people. Some people just want to get the music out, and and even just record on things like Audigo mics, and just play acoustic just to kind of get the music out. Because, like you say, it's incredibly expensive, and can be difficult to find the right people to produce your tracks, and some other people do it the other way around, and they refuse to release anything until it's up to that kind of production standard. So I suppose sometimes it's finding a middle ground, and it's just interesting to hear your particular journey around that. But yeah, and, it's fantastic that you got radio play so early on. Did that open any doors at that point? Did that kind of change anything in your career at that point?
It's always a great thing to have on the resume. We were trying to get there at some point. There's in the industry, there's kind of two levels. There's the independent side of radio, and then there's the major label side of radio. We did try our best to try to push the song towards bigger stations to get a farther reach, but it's tough when you're not on a label. So yeah, it definitely opened doors in terms of one, putting it on the resume, but two, broadening the audience that we were having people listening to it all over the country. I mean, I think we got on 20 some stations. I think it was 22 or 23 different stations across the country, and that's from just a small town kid in Pennsylvania. It's kind of hard to believe that. But it's really cool. I think Four Door Ford, it's one of my favorite songs we've ever done so far. I hope people relate to it. I think it's going to do really well. So I think we're going to try to push that one to radio as well because it's just such a good song. Sometimes you write one and you just know, and then other times you write one, you put it out, and you're like, I don't know so much, but then it just does really well because people love it. So it's kind of a guessing game a little bit, but the radio thing is really really cool to be able to listen to it in my truck with my girlfriend Natalie for the first time ever hearing myself on the radio was just a, a, a bucket list moment for sure.
It must be really surreal. And no, congratulations, mate.
Thank you.
With your new track, Four Door Fort Zone. So what's the kind of story to that? What's the backdrop?
It's the song's really nostalgic. It kind of hits you in the heartstrings a little bit when you're not even looking. It's kind of the way that I put it, but it's about that first truck you got or that first car you got as a kid. Well, if you don't mind me asking, what was your first vehicle?
It's not going to be as cool as whatever you had, mate. It was a Vauxhall Nova. It's a tiny little car that most teenagers had in the UK. Not a great car, and definitely not a truck, mate.
All good, all good. Was it stick at least?
It was, yeah, it was. And when it got really cold, it had one of these choke things that you had to pull out. Otherwise, it would just stall at a roundabout, you know.
Oh, man.
So
That's
embarrassing.
Awesome. No, that's great. So mine was a truck. It was a four-door Ford, essentially. That's why the song's called that. But it was a 1997 Ford F-350 diesel. And it was a truck I've always wanted my entire life. We had a gentleman not too far down the road from us that had it, and my brothers and I had been looking at it for years, and then finally, out of all three brothers, I was the one to be able to buy it off of him, which is pretty good bragging rights, down the road. But this song itself is about that journey of getting that first truck. In the song, we talk about kind of a hand-me-down from your grandpa because I did write it with two other people, and that was kind of an experience that they had. I wish I got it from my grandfather, but and the nostalgia that comes with it, and then all the memories made in it. You don't realize that a vehicle can be such a piece of your life when you look back on it. You know what I mean? All the friends, the places you went in it, the friends you made, the stories you can tell with it. In Pennsylvania, there's a lot of people that like mudding, is what we call it, but you just take the truck through a big puddle of mud, and that was the thing we used to do. Like bonfires, in a random cornfield, that kind of thing. So it really just encapsulates that whole experience into a song that I think we did a really good job of kind of telling the story, both lyrically and musically. I'm super proud of it.
That's brilliant. Yeah. And when's that out?
So that comes out May 8th.
May 8th. Okay. So mark that in your diaries, people. But yeah, it's great. It sounds a great song already. I've heard bits and parts of that already. So yeah, keen to give it a full listen. But it's funny you say that. I think we're so envious of you guys having these Ford trucks over in America, and we say it wouldn't be the same if we wrote a song about a Vauxhall Nova. Put it that way.
Can you guys get
nowhere near as cool?
Can you import trucks over there?
We can, but it's super expensive. Fuel over it is expensive, and the roads just aren't designed for it. We've got tiny little roads. So yeah, it would be cool to drive one around. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, I don't think they'd fit on the road most of the time.
Fair enough.
Not in Little England, but so these podcasts could be quite heavy, intense with the questions that I kind of run through. So I try and break them up a little bit with some quick fire questions. And I think it requires minimal thinking, mate, minimal explaining. Whatever you say, essentially, Ryan, is correct. So I'm going to just lump some questions your way and just whatever comes to your mind first, just say it and we'll run from there.
Let's give it a go. I'm ready.
Okay. So number one, favourite musician from your childhood?
John Mayer.
Good answer. One independent artist more people should know about?
Oof, that's a good one, man. I know this is rapid fire, but I gotta take a second if that's okay.
Of course.
I was on a show, we haven't talked about it yet, but a TV show with he's gonna kill me for this, but Donnie Van Slee. Out of Nashville, man, he's independent and he's a country guy just like I am, more on the Americana side, and he's unbelievable. So if you're out there and you're listening, go check out Donnie Van Slee.
Yeah, he's a good dude. We've listened to a few of Donny's songs. I think we're connected on Instagram as well. So absolutely, that's a great answer,
awesome.
mate. Best album or song you've heard from the last 5 years?
I will have to say Joshua Sloan. The album he just put out is, in my opinion, top notch, absolutely incredible. And then Noah Khan just released his album, I think last week, called The Great Divide, which is unbelievable as well. So I know you asked for one, but I had to give you two.
I'm not strict, mate. You're right. It's all
Appreciate
good.
it.
One song that always puts you in a good mood.
Man, these are good. I would say Half a Song by Cody Johnson. That's an absolute banger.
That is a banger, mate. I'll give you that. And here's one. What's your guilty pleasure song or artist?
I mean, with the way that Coachella just went, I'd have to say probably Justin Bieber. I mean, we all grew up on him, and I don't know if that's a cop-out answer or not, but man, he's got this song that I learned how to play, I think it was like freshman year of college, called Home to Mama, and he does an incredible acoustic version of it. And I got to say, I'm not sure if it's guilty. You know what? I'll take that one to the grave. I'm proud of that one.
Yeah. Good for you. You got to be proud of these things. I put this one in because I was listening to the Dixie Chicks the other day, and I don't know if that's cool or not. I don't think it is cool, to be
Oh
honest.
yeah, it is. They're
yeah,
awesome.
there you go. Then that's my guilty kind of pleasure artist at the minute. So yeah, I thought I'd take everyone down with me by asking these questions and seeing what you've got, mate. But good answers, mate. I like the John Mayer reference as well. He's one of my all-time favorite artists as well. He's awesome.
He's really the main reason that I picked up the guitar. I mean, if you play guitar, you obviously know who John Mayer is, but I'm not sure John Mayer knows how influential he is, just in general, from that like early 2000s group of people that grew up in that era. You know, he's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, I was introduced to John Mayer in, was it 2000 or 2001 when it was Room for Squares, and I had some friends over from Florida around that time, and they said, hey, here's a CD, go and listen to this guy, because he was unknown in the UK at that time, and I give it a listen. It wasn't my thing, funny enough, and I think everyone probably says the exact same thing now, is that you listen to a few songs and it's a little bit girly in places, but then you hit Neon. I think Neon's on that, and Why Georgia, and then you start looking at it differently, and then obviously the albums after that. Anyway, listen to John Mayer Fan Club. It's
It
but
could be. I'd be fine with that.
Thanks for sharing that, mate. And I know we've been itching to talk about The Voice. I thought I'll make you wait for that one. But it'd be remiss not to ask questions about that. It's one of the biggest music TV shows, particularly in America, for the last good few years now. And how did that come about? How on earth did you find yourself on The Voice?
Man, what a surreal experience. That's really the only way to explain it as a whole. What I've learned over the past, and I shouldn't get in trouble for this because my NDA is up. A lot of people end up getting reached out to, especially with this age and how social media is. If you have a decent following online, they'll reach out to you and say, hey, do you want to audition for this show? Whether it's The Voice or Idol or, all these different ones. Very rarely do you actually get through the process as an actual auditioner, just from off the street kind of thing. And in that point in time, they were doing virtual auditions. This was post-COVID, but I guess they just found it made more sense that way. So I auditioned virtually just on a whim in my kitchen. I was sitting on my kitchen island, and I think it was like a Wednesday night. And again, my girlfriend Natalie filmed me, and it was a Tyler Childers song, one of the best songs I think he's ever written. And you take a 30-second clip, you send it in via email or whatever. I think it was like a Dropbox or whatever. And yeah, I said, well, we tried. If nothing comes of it, it is what it is. And I think it was like 11:30 that same night, I got a call back, and they send you an email, and it's, we'd like to see you for another audition. Can you schedule a time? I'm like, oh, wow, that's actually pretty cool. So that's really how it started. I just got an email that The Voice was hosting virtual auditions, and I said, screw it. Let's do it. What's the worst that could happen? I get on the show, and lo and behold,
Absolutely.
it actually happened. So that's kind of how it started. There's a whole process you go through, and the filming takes place way before you see it on TV. Um, but it is filmed in LA, so I got to go out to LA with 60 people, and um, Donnie was one of those guys that I met on the show, along with some other amazing people that I still keep in touch with that are like family to me. And man, yeah, it's just such a surreal. If you've never been on TV or part of a production like that, it's kind of a whirlwind, in a good way. It's great experience, not only for like interviews, but also performance. I mean, there's millions of people watching you through 26 cameras in that room. Uh, so it's a little daunting, but my parents got to be there on my first audition day, which was huge. The first live audition day that you see on TV when they're, pressing the buttons to turn around. So yeah, I don't know if that was too much, but it crazy, crazy experience.
No, that's not enough, mate. I've probably got a million questions around it because, like you say, most people like me will just see it through, the TV. So we see the glamorous side of things, but we don't see kind of the inner workings. So I suppose it's getting that peek behind the curtain of how it truly works. So what Tyler Childers song was it to start with that you submitted?
I sang "Shake the Frost," which is one of my favorites
Oh,
by him.
brilliant!
Yeah, and
Good
it
choice.
worked because then I had to do a couple other video submissions, kind of like actors have to tape and then send in tapes. We had to do a couple of those, and then you get a call one day and says, "Hey, you're going to LA. We got you a plane ticket, and you can take this many bags and a guitar, and we'll see you in Burbank," which is pretty cool. And I will tell you a quick funny story. One of the first days filming, some of the B-roll, interview back behind the scenes kind of stuff. Um, they don't tell you, but as a guy, you still have to go into hair and makeup. Everybody does. And I was in theater a few times as a kid, but I never wore makeup like this. And it was because of the shine, right? Like our skin is shiny on camera. So they got to take the shine off with, powder or whatever it is. So I think there's 7 or 8 guys. We were all together, we were still trying to get to know each other, but we all go into makeup at the same time and we all come out and we start looking at each other and we're like, man, you look pretty good. I get why they make that why girls wear makeup now, man. This is pretty cool. And I'll never forget that. That was so funny. But it was
Was it the
good.
whole lipstick and the kind of makeup shebang? That's
Not quite. Thankfully, they didn't
that
put
seems.
eyeliner on us or anything, but it was mostly like blush and powder to take the shine off, kind of thing. But it was funny.
But I'm sure you all look beautiful. So that's interesting, man. So so with the next steps, then. So you've gone through the audition, you've submitted your song, you've gone to LA, and then the live show starts. So how does that work on the day? What actually kind of goes on?
Yeah, it's a great kind of. I know everybody's kind of wondering, what is it actually like going through this process? And um, on the day that we do that first audition that you see on TV, again, where they turn the chairs around, um, everybody kind of has a different time slot that you have to get ready for, and you film at a certain point during the day. There's an audience there. It's like 100 or 150 people. Of You can actually, if right now, if you wanted to go to a voice taping or an audition, you can actually sign up online and you get tickets and you can actually go. So, but it was nice. My parents flew in from Philly and they were there. You can see them on the audition if you look at it on YouTube or wherever. My dad's singing along, and I always say I don't get my dance moves from him because he needs to have a few glasses of red wine before he starts loosening up. But um, so yeah, we're sitting backstage forever, and it's that anticipation of getting ready for it, and then they pull you out, and you stand before those doors, kind of off to the side, and they say, "Here goes nothing. Good luck." And then you go out on the stage, you do your thing, and it's really tough. I will say this: it's really, really tough to sing with with other people's back to you. I didn't realize how hard that was going to be because the only thing you're thinking about that whole performance is turn around. I need you to turn around, kind of thing. And
Yeah, yeah.
especially when it's people that you've looked up to your entire life, or people that have some serious pull in the industry. Um, Man, it's just crazy. So when Dan and Shay hit their button and they turned around, it's like this 2,000-pound weight comes off your shoulders, and then I felt like I could actually perform. Like, I felt like I was holding back a little bit. I don't know why until that happened, and then once that happens, you just let loose and go.
Yeah, that's so interesting. It's like I suppose that to some degree we always think it's fairly scripted that you know what's going to happen, when you're doing it on the stage and what so to kind of get that peak that it's all there and Len from what you're saying, in terms of finding out that Dan and Shay will turn around, they'll choose you, and that's incredible. But yeah, I didn't think about that, playing to people with their backs to you, and I don't know. In some way, I thought that might be easier, but the premise of the show obviously is to make them turn around and to bring you into their group. So yeah, that takes some balls, Ryan. And it's great that Dan and Shay kind of turn around. And so what happened next then? So what are some next rounds involved with that? Some knockout stuff.
Yeah, then once they turn around, each coach has like a gift that they give to you. So they printed my name on the back of this baseball style jersey. Everybody on Team Dan and Shay got one, and it's something really cool to bring home because I have it in my studio actually. Um, but yeah, then you go off, you get off set, and you kind of go home back to where we're staying, and a couple days go by, and we actually get vocal lessons like while we're going through this process, which I also thought was pretty interesting. I did not expect that at all, and it was really good for me because I've never really had vocal lessons. I never really warmed up properly. I just kind of when I play a show, the first 4, 5, 6 songs are my warm up, and then halfway through I start getting going. Um, but yeah, then we go to the next round, which is the battle round. So they pair you up with somebody who's kind of in the same zone, same genre kind of thing. And they paired me up with Dakota Talmadge, who's another dear friend of mine. He and I got really close over the course of the experience. And we're both kind of country guys. He's from Alabama. I'm from Pennsylvania. He's got like a real, real Southern grit to his voice, which um, they loved. And that's ultimately, he deserved to win that battle. So, and which he did. Um, and I ended up going home after that. But uh, it's a bunch of kind of preparation. You do a lot of hours of practicing the song that you're going to sing, um, especially when it's a duet. Figuring out who's going to sing what parts, the harmonies, that's a whole nother thing. And then the vocal lessons. And it really is a production, man. It's not just kind of like, hey, here's a song, you're going to sing it in 2 days or
Yeah.
tomorrow kind of thing. Um, and I understand why, it's a business at the end of the day. You want it to sound good and be entertaining. Uh, but yeah, it's just kind of a crazy thing.
Yeah, it's for normal people like me, it's just hard to kind of wrap your head around what goes on and what you guys go through as well. And you say you got to that moment where you found out you're going home. What actually happens at that point then? So how does the show, I suppose, end on your part? What goes on?
Yeah, at that point, so I'll back up a little bit. They say that the people that audition in the beginning, if you're doing a virtual audition and you don't get asked to be on the show, I mean, there could be hundreds of thousands of people that audition, right? And the percentage of people that actually make it from a real audition is less than 1%. So just to get to LA through that process, through like the normal audition process, is very, very humbling. So no matter where you go from there, it's okay. You made it that far.
You've won.
That should be it. Yeah, exactly. You won. Yep. So that's kind of what my mindset was going through it. I mean, just to be able to get that far. And then I got Team Dan and Shay, and I was like, okay, maybe I am an okay singer, because before that I was always pretty hesitant about my singing. Um, Even though people told me I was, pretty good at, you get in your own head kind of thing. Um, but then we get paired up for the battles. You go through that whole thing. They say that they pick the other contestant and you're going home. It obviously hurts. Everybody has a small ego, no matter who you are. Um,
Yeah.
Super humbled, and I wanted Dakota to win anyways because she killed that song. And I was singing more on the harmony side because I have a little bit of a higher pitch tone where he's more kind of lower and has more growl to him. But he's an incredible performer and artist. And sorry, so back to going home. When they say you're going home, you literally get off set, you get in a van, and you go get your bags, kind of thing. I mean, it's quick. Um, they get you out of there
Oh, really?
because
I thought there'd
well,
be a
yeah,
whole process around kind of offboarding you, so to speak, and easing you gently out of the show. It's not quite like that, no.
yeah, I thought the same too. I thought we were going to have maybe a day before we go home, but no, you're out same day. Um, it's quick. Yeah.
Wow, that's fast, man. So, I mean, like you say at the beginning, just to get through the hundreds of thousands of people, you're a winner already, and you're meeting some fantastic people, and people on the show as well. And how has it impacted your career? From that point and kind of going into the next stages.
It's honestly been probably one of the best moves I could have made. Having that opportunity to go do the show, because you can say no. Once they say you're going to LA, do you really want to go do this thing? Because you do have to sign this very lengthy, scary contract. Um, so you can't say no when you get to that point. But I decided it was going to be a good move, no matter how far I made it, and I was right. I trust my gut on that one. No matter how far you go as an artist, these days it's really, really tough to make it, right? Like it's very saturated. Everybody's trying to find their niche, and now with social media, it's even 10 times harder. Having that kind of accolade attached to my name has definitely helped in terms of booking shows. Just for an example, when you have that accolade that you were on The Voice, the people already know that you have a certain skill of singing to be on a show like that. And that was kind of an eye opening to me. Cause I never really thought much of my voice until I was on there, and they really made me see the value of it. But it's been great for booking. It gives you just kind of that extra lift when you're going to play festivals, or you're talking to booking agents, or we haven't gotten to the label situation yet, but I'm hoping that's coming soon. So yeah, it was a great career move, and no matter where you ended up, kind of going home or not, yeah, it was a good decision.
Yeah, good for you. It's something you absolutely should leverage, and why not? You've put yourself through that, and say put yourself through it, and it's not a bad thing. It's incredible. It's an incredible opportunity that hardly
Right.
anyone gets the chance to do. So yeah, it's so interesting that you kind of shared those parts. But with independent music and independent artists, like you touched upon social media, so difficult. Like you say, it's a saturated market in wherever you go, UK, US, wherever you might be. How do you navigate that? Do you do all your own social media stuff? Do you have any help at all?
Yeah, like you said, it's such a tough thing to do. There's so much pressure, I think, but there's also a ton of there's not pressure. I don't really know how to explain it. As an artist, it feels like there's a lot of pressure, but there really isn't. You know what I mean? You can be yourself, but you as an artist, you want to get your music out there. You want to go quote unquote viral or whatever. Just to, that's honestly the way that you kind of have to do it these days. Luckily, I bumped into a old friend of mine from high school, who's a director now, and he's in the film industry. He does incredible work with documentaries, and um, he films a lot of boxing matches for MMA and all that kind of stuff. He does a lot of my media when it comes to making the short form content, filming videos. We do acoustic videos of every song that's on my YouTube, um, so all that kind of stuff. So I do have help on the making of it, the filming side. Um, when it comes to the actual marketing piece, it's kind of a one man band thing. We do ads once in a while for songs that drop, but again, who knows where that money's actually going. But it is just tough. My biggest problem is it's not making the content, but it's being diligent enough to do it every day. And I heard a quote the other day. I didn't sign up to be a musician to be an influencer. I'm a musician. I want to be a musician, not a social
Yeah.
personality. And I could relate to that.
Yeah, so many people say the same thing, and some people love it. They absolutely thrive on the fact that posting content every day, but some people get really frustrated, and like you say, it's these weird viral moments that can catch and do wonders for people's careers. And some people kind of veer off as well. I've seen, on TikTok, and that they're making stuff that has absolutely nothing to do with their music at all, but it's catching well, and it's kind of a funneling those views into the music in a way. So, like you say, they didn't sign up to be an influencer, but I suppose that's part and parcel of, of things these days, isn't it?
Part of the
It's
game
very
that we sign
difficult.
up
I
for.
just want to do. Yeah, man. I just want to do podcasts and play music, but it's we're all stuck in this kind of cycle of posting, but I suppose it's trying to post quality stuff as well, isn't it? Rather than just posting every day. And um, I went on your YouTube today and loved the acoustic videos that you've put out. Really well filmed, the cinematography of where you've done it as well in the fields. Is that on your farm where you've recorded that?
It is, yeah, and I appreciate you saying that. Thank you for looking at them. Yeah, we have a field that has about 10 or 12 Texas Longhorns in them, and we just love. They're pets for us, but it makes a really cool backdrop when we're doing these videos. And we've a lot of locations on the farm, thankfully, that are very aesthetic or very camera worthy shots. So I'm very blessed in that sense to just have a location. Our main farm's under 100 acres, but um, we just have all these different little nooks and crannies of the place that we can use to film, and it it's a blessing.
It's perfect. Yeah, it just looks beautiful, mate. So anyone who gets a chance to go over to Ryan's YouTube channel, make sure you subscribe for a start. But yeah, go and watch those videos. I love the comments as well. I just like reading comments, because it's always positive stuff normally. Sometimes we get some strange comments on our videos. We had one today, but I won't bore you with that. But
Oh man,
yeah, seeing the ones on yours, you've got people from Czechoslovakia, I think, or Hungary, or it's great to see where people are watching from all around the world, and seeing your music and seeing your videos. It's just a cool thing, I think.
yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you.
But
It's fun making them too. We just get to go out there as a couple of buddies making a video, and we'll have a couple beers, trying to film it, and we make a little thing out of it. You know what I mean?
yeah, it should be fun. Absolutely. We do it. I mean, last time Ronnie, my co-host, and I did some filming out in Wales with some Kentucky boys that came over. Yeah, we'd had a few beers the night before, so the camera was a little bit shaky. So I've learnt my lesson in preparation for those sort of things in future. But there you go. But anyway, so right at the start, you mentioned you're a sports guy. Do you know anything about UK soccer at all?
You might you might not like it. Well, I watched Ted Lasso, so I don't know if that's a good depiction of what's going on or not. But I will say, I'm a sports guy. I wouldn't say I'm a massive sports guy. I know I have some buddies who are just really, really into it. Um, but a big Philly sports fan, and I do love watching football or soccer. Um, and it's much more interesting than I think people realize. It's kind of like watching golf. I don't know if you watch golf or not, but I absolutely love watching golf. It's thrilling kind of in its own way, and I think football is that way as well.
Yeah, it's I'm getting to the age where I need to start playing golf. With friends. It seems like a way to get away from the wife and kids for a start. But yeah, I don't know if we have the weather for it over here. It would be nice. But the reason I brought soccer up is that over in the UK, my favourite team, Man United, we have the Holy Trinity. You guys, you have Mount Rushmore and things like that, and we're always trying to equate, people's ideal kind of Mount Rushmore of artists. But I'm going to do UK twist on it. So the Holy Trinity. Who is your Holy Trinity of artists that inspire you, perhaps shaped you into the artist that you are today? That you just generally love. Three artists.
That's an incredible question, and probably one that I haven't really thought about before. But I will have to reiterate that John Mayer he's probably the first one on there. Like I said, growing up, he's the reason I picked up a guitar, and um, just such a pivotal kind of figure in my life. So he's definitely got to be on that Mount Rushmore. Um, I would say that Chris Stapleton is another good face to put on there. Just the soul and the musicianship. I mean, he really he grinded it out in Nashville as a songwriter for much longer than I think people realize. He wrote some of the most number ones, ever. Um, and then he became an artist on the back end. Even after he was part of the Steel Drivers, which I think is probably one of the best bands ever when it comes to bluegrass. So Stapleton's got to be on there as well. Um, I would say, oh man, this is a tough question because I don't. There's so many options and so many influences, but I don't want to exclude people that shouldn't be on it. But I would say probably more so on the countryside. Cody Johnson is another one. I know he's newer, but another big influence of mine, especially with the rodeo stuff. He's been a huge, huge piece of that. And then 4, right? We're doing 4 here for Rushmore. Or are you doing 3?
You could have an extra one. It's a holy trinity, but you can have an extra one. I'll treat you, mate.
I apologize. You did say 3. Maybe an honorable mention, if we will. There we go. Perfect. Yes. Oh, man. Just too many to choose from. I'm going to have to put probably George Strait on there. Classic. Yeah. Or I'll do 2. I'll do 2 for you. George Strait, David Allan Coe. He's a legend as well. So.
Yeah, these ones are so hard to do, aren't they? Because like you say, you can reel off a list of 20 or 30 people straight away, and to get it down to 3, it's a horrible question. That's why I like to answer.
It's a great question, but it's also horrible at the same time.
But there you go. Thanks for sharing that, mate. I mean, I'd say you've been generous in sharing your kind of backstory and where you've been and where you're heading. And, I like to ask this question because, being a musician and also having a full-time job and perhaps as intense as what you've got with farming, you've got to look after your mental health. And on the Rugged Revival, we're big advocates of people looking after themselves and supporting others as well. But, how do you look after your own mental welfare? And is there any things that you do, anything that you step away to do something different from music and farming? What's your kind of techniques?
I have to say it's becoming a bigger and bigger issue. And I think it should be because I think guys in general or men in general don't, talk about it as much as they should. And unfortunately, it leads to the downfall of a lot of us. So I appreciate that question. And appreciate you guys willing to talk about that. I have to say that hunting is probably my biggest therapeutic, kind of activity that I do to stay mentally stable. And some might think that's a bit of an oxymoron, but it's more so it's not the actual harvesting of the animal. It's being in the environment. Sitting in a tree in the middle of the woods for hours on end, no phone, no music. You can't even hear the cars go by. You're literally just sitting in God's creation, there's just something so therapeutic about that. And I will say songwriting is a big piece of that as well. You can get your ideas and kind of everything that's going on in these crazy minds of ours down on a piece of paper. And even if one person relates to it somewhere in the world, that's a win to me. So I would say the songwriting is probably the first one. Hunting is a huge one for me as well. And then really just time with the family. My family is really, really close. Like I said, I have 2 older brothers, my parents, obviously, and then all of our significant others. We have Sunday dinner every night at my parents' house, and we've done that for as long as I can remember. And we have our first niece now, which she's absolutely spoiled. But now that the family's growing, it just makes me realize how important family is, how lucky we are to have, those people in our lives. And honestly, when I'm with them, it's not about music. It's not about farming for them. It's not about work. It's not about anything. It's just about spending time together. So
good for you, mate. It's finding that escapism, like you say, and if it's family, if it's hunting, and whatever it is. I think, like you say, dudes don't tend to talk too much about it. We just kind of get on with it. We grind away, and I don't think it should be that way. So appreciate you sharing that, mate. That's cool.
I appreciate it. But I'd like to ask you, if you don't mind, what are your kind of getaways in that respect?
Why getaways? Doing this podcast for a start.
Yeah, that's great.
So,
yeah.
You know, it's I in my normal life, I have several businesses that I manage in the daytime, and then I have a wife and two kids. So it finding something completely different, and just to take my mind off of it. And music has always been a passion of mine. So to get to talk to cool people like you, Ryan, to kind of delve into music and just to do something completely different. It's like you say, it's an escapism, just to take your mind off it and do something fun. Easier said than done to find a hobby that you like, but yeah. Anyway, that's probably a long answer for what you've asked, but that's what I like doing, mate.
That's great. I appreciate you sharing.
Thanks, man. So, in terms of either the near or perhaps the distant future, have you got anything kind of mapped out in your head? Have you got I know you mentioned Rollins Start, you and Reed have kind of put some plans together already, but do you have anything definitive, or you've got some new releases coming up very soon, but what about the rest of the year?
Yeah, so Four Door Forward, newest singles coming out May 8th. Really, really excited about that one. We're going to be following it up with a couple more songs throughout this year. Probably one every 10 maybe weeks or so is kind of what the schedule we're looking at right now. And then an EP in October or November, sometime around then. So again, focusing on the music this year, putting it out. We're going to be playing some tour dates. We're in Tennessee, we're in Minnesota, we're in Nebraska, we're back in Texas. We're kind of a Jersey, all over the place, which is great for us. For me, it's always been about, like I said earlier, making it a full-time gig and just traveling with my buddies, playing music. That's the dream. Doesn't get much better than that. And then next year, I think towards the end of this year, we're going to start building a real tour, possibly with another group, another band for next year. So we'd like to be on the road the majority of next year if possible, and seeing everybody's beautiful faces out in the crowd and at the merch table. I mean, that's my favorite part besides playing on stage. I love the songwriting process. I love the studio process, even though they can be some really long days. Um, but there's
Yeah.
nothing quite like performing live for people and then hearing them sing the words back to you. That's one of the coolest things in the world, and then getting to see them after and talking to them at the merch booth, signing, whatever I had sorry to change the subject, but I had a girl come up to me at a show a couple months ago, and I signed her forearm, and she told me she was getting it tattooed. I go, that's nuts, but okay, you do whatever you want to do. Go for it. And then she later direct messaged me on Instagram saying her boyfriend didn't like that idea, so she ended up not getting it tattooed. So I could have called that one.
Oh,
I
that would have
saw
been
that one coming.
amazing if she did.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. But now a lot of great stuff coming up. I mean, the music's we're really, really proud of, really excited for that's coming out, and then playing these shows, throughout the rest of this year, and then getting on the road next year as well.
Superb, man. Have you got any kind of favorite states that you like playing? Any favorite venues?
Yeah, I will say this year we might be playing it again. There's a place close to home here called the Sellersville Theater. They've been really good to us. So I think we're going to be playing there again later this year. That's a great venue for us. I am partial to Florida because I did cut my teeth on a lot of venues in Florida. Got to play Blake Shelton's Old Red. He's got that honky tonk down there. That was a big deal for me back a couple years ago when I got to play that for the first time. Um, there's kind of venues. Honestly, there's so many. It's kind of hard to list them, but each one has its own character. Has the people are different, which I love. The staffing is usually very, very nice and accommodating. And there's nothing like playing live. Even for me as a musician, I'm sure for yourself as well. Going to see somebody else play live is almost as exciting as doing it yourself. On stage. Um, so yeah, I just love it there's no other way to put it.
Good for you, mate. Good for you. And when can we expect you in the UK as well? That'd be nice.
I would love to come over there as soon as it makes sense to make our way over there. We definitely will. Hopefully in the next, I would say 1 to 2 years at some point. Um, I have to go to Ireland later this year. I know that's not UK, but next door neighbors. Um, but
Close enough. Yeah.
yeah. UK is definitely on my list, and London especially, and maybe a couple other stops around the country. That'd be great.
Super. And, this has been a kind of theme throughout the podcast, asking you horrible questions and putting you on the spot. So I'm going to do it one last time just for good measure. But if someone came up to you and asked, 3 things that immediately come to mind when you think about the UK, what might they be?
I'll be honest with you. Manchester United comes to is one of the first ones. Are you? I
Good
don't know
man.
if you're a fan of them or not, but
I am, yes.
great, great. So that was a good answer. London in general, I always think of like the Bridge or Big Ben, or the royal family is probably a big one as well. Um, and then I'll be honest with you, I love the old time cars over there. We don't get a lot. We get some of those over here in the States. But like the old British cars, I'm a big car guy, and I just love the way that they were engineered and made. I'd like to get one of those one day, but I'm a big fan of those.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I like to ask these sort of questions because it's like, what perception do people have of the UK from different parts of the world? And yeah, you were
Definitely.
very kind and very nice to us there, so appreciate that, mate. It's could have been worse. But that's awesome. Look, man, I'm really grateful for your time. I think it's been awesome getting to know you, your background, and everything in between. I appreciate we've gone through so much, and yeah, man, it's where can people find you the most? Where are you most active online?
Yeah, and I'll first just say thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Again, it's my first podcast. You're super easy to talk to. It's been a pleasure to get to know you over the course of this podcast, and really just thank you guys for having me on. So I appreciate that.
Thank you,
Uh,
mate.
yeah, of course. The listeners, if you guys are listening, go check us out on RyanColemanmusic.com is my website. You can find us anywhere on social media at Ryan Coleman with 2 N's on Ryan and 2 N's on Coleman. That's Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, the whole 9, YouTube. And then any streaming service that you guys use to listen to music, we're on. So Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, Deezer, whatever it may be. Go take a look, check us out. We'd love to connect with you guys. Don't ever hesitate to shoot me a message if you're in the area or looking for a show. And just hope you guys can enjoy the music that we're putting out and making, and can't wait to hopefully get over to the UK sometime soon and play a couple shows for you guys.
Super, man. And yeah, absolutely. Go on your Instagram and your socials. Subscribe. I think it really helps. And pre-saving the links, when that comes out, that helps the algorithm. So yeah, thanks for sharing that, Ryan. And again, thank you so much for coming on. I don't know if you have a drink to hand, mate. If you don't worry. But the reason is we like to finish the show off by raising a toast to the grit, the grind, and to the revival. Thanks, Ryan, for coming on, and thanks everyone for listening. Appreciate it.
Cheers. Thank you guys.